here. I risk everything. I leave everything behind.
Ik ben Anita van Loon en ik ben straks de mevrouw bij Jarden die verantwoordelijk mag gaan zijn voor het nieuw te bouwen rouwcentrum in Amsterdam-Zuidoost. Het eerste centrum voor mensen uit andere culturen, omdat we zeggen, goh, Nederland ziet er niet meer uit zoals Anita van Loon.
When I'm going to rent the place for my funeral, it is the place that I use their drinks, or they will allow me to buy my drinks and my waters from Lidl or Aldi to bring it and use it.
Maar dit zijn die dingen, dit zijn die dingen die het verschil maken. Ja.
We hebben een afspraak met pastor Koning.
Let's say 20 minutes time.
20 minutes, hier wil ik.
Ongeveer.
Wachten. Wilt u dat ik mijn hoofd bedek?
Dit land is gestoeid op christendom en daar hebben ze grote mondloop naar.
Maar je gaat toch betalen hoor. Je gaat betalen. Ja, niks is gratis.
Wij kan zaken doen.
Die man is gek hoor.
We waren bijna onze zeg maar, authentieke Nederlanders vergeten.
Ja. Ze leven toch in Nederland, dus het moet wel volgens ons.
Ja, natuurlijk. Vind ik wel.
Een beetje op de ogen.
Ik heb voor het eerst zorgen. Hoe ga je nou echt ervoor zorgen dat alles rondom die dood bij jou gaat gebeuren? Niet meer op de flat of in de sporthal, maar bij jou. Ik vind wel vaker dat wij Nederlanders, wij denken het allemaal wel goed te weten voor een ander.
Ons motto in de Kamer luidt, broeders en zusters.
Horen, zien en zwijgen.
Daarop drinken we.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session of Film Talk with me, Novel Yazid. I'm the festival co-director. And this afternoon, we will have a talk with the director of Dealing with Death, Paul Rigter. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Paul. Hi. I'm sorry, I think you need to unmute your microphone.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Hi, good morning to you there.
Sorry?
Good morning to you there.
Good morning to me. Yeah, good afternoon to you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. All right. Before we begin, I would like to explain about this webinar to our audience. You can either join us via Zoom or YouTube. And if you have any question, feel free to type in your question at the Q&A box at the right bottom of your screen. You can ask your question either in English or in Indonesian. If it is in Indonesian, I will help translate it to English later on. So, Paul, thank you for your time today. And we just started screening your film dealing with death yesterday. And what I would like to begin with about your film is that this is the Amsterdam that many of us are not familiar with in terms of the religious diversity and about its various religious practices. I wonder if most of the people living in Amsterdam are also aware of the variety of religious practices in the city.
I don't think so. I think also for me as an Amsterdam citizen, it was not this part of Amsterdam, the Bijlmer it's called. It's an area that also myself, I didn't know much about. It's a few kilometers away, but it seems a whole different world and a whole different society with its own rules and rituals. So I think also for the rest of the Netherlands, it's quite an unknown area. And if it is known, then the image is not very positive. So with this film, I wanted to explore more about the reality in this neighborhood.
What sort of image that is usually associated with Bijlmer then?
There is a lot of, there's a high rate of criminality there. So there's a lot of, relatively a lot of shootings, burglary. So yeah, there are some big problems in this area, but it's a huge area. So it's not like that it's happening everywhere, but in certain parts of this neighborhood, the situation is not very positive.
I see. When did you actually hear about Yarden for the first time?
About the company Yarden.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's now like almost 7 years ago, I think. It took me 6 years to complete this film. And it started out by a press release by this company that stated that they were planning an inclusive funeral center in this neighborhood, specifically there to cater to all the different communities there. And that fascinated me because I thought, how are they going to do that? And is this a good idea? And will it work? So I set out to get to know some people behind this project. Yeah. And when I met Anita, the main character of my film, then I was convinced, yes, this can be a good movie because she is very straightforward, very Dutch. Yeah. But with a good spirit. She was really sincere in her efforts to understand the situation there. So I thought that can be that can be an interesting process to capture on film.
So did Anita warm up immediately to the idea that you will do a documentary film when you proposed to her?
Yeah, she was quite enthusiastic. Yeah. Okay. So and I have to admire her for that she really said, okay, this is going to be a big adventure. I don't know anything about it. So this is going to be your project, and I'll just do my thing. And I must say, she really delivered. She delivered.
Did, yeah. But did you also plan to capture the life of Anita? Is it something in your plan, or initially you only plan to capture about the process of building Yarden?
No, for me it was from the start. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to follow the process of this funeral center, every step of it. That was the sort of the path for the viewer to follow the story. So that's a story. But what I also wanted to do is show the different perspectives. That for me, that was the key for my film, to show the perspective of the Bijlmer area, this neighborhood with its own rules and rituals. And on the other side, the perspective of the white Dutch perspective, so the white Dutch society, which Anita impersonates. So to do justice to both perspectives, I really wanted to get into the depth of these perspectives and also in Anita's life. So it was from the start obvious. I talked to Anita, I said, okay, it's not going to be only about your work. I also want to get to know you, and I want to show who you are in all its different facets. So she had to think about it, but she agreed.
And well, unfortunately, her father passed away, and somehow it mirrors the atmosphere and the situation in the film. And you were there at the funeral. What was it like that, to stand there as a filmmaker? But I understand that at that point you were already also quite close, I imagine, to Anita. Yeah. So what was it like being there?
I think the main work for me as a documentary maker is to create trust and to build a bond with my main characters. And once you succeed in that, then there is a sort of intimacy that can stretch to all different areas of life. And in this case, it was about her father's death. And it was strange because it's a working environment that's not. I'm not often there, and I shouldn't be there often. But it was, in a way, it was also very satisfying because it was a proof that I really got very close to her, and also the other funerals that I visited. So I knew once I was allowed to film that I could establish a real connection, and I could show something really special and intimate for the viewer. And if I would do that in a sincere way and in an honest way, I think I could do justice to everyone. So I think I achieved that, yeah.
Yes, well, you certainly do. There is also one thing that Anita said in the beginning of the film when she gave a speech to one of the communities that she wanted to approach. She said that the Dutch no longer looks like her. I mean, and she's pointing at herself. So, well, I have to say that the last time I went to Amsterdam was more than 10 years ago. So I would like to know, how diverse is the current population in the Netherlands, especially in Amsterdam?
In the big cities, so there are, well, Netherlands doesn't have big cities compared to Indonesia, but Amsterdam is like 900,000 people, I think. There, it's very diverse and very mixed, which I like. It's very blended together, although there are certain areas that are inhabited mostly by Muslims, others by white people, but in the end it's quite mixed, which I think is very good. In the rest of the Netherlands, it's mixed. There are some spots that are very diverse, but the countryside is quite conservative still and mostly white. Yeah. With communities spread. There are some spread around in the Netherlands, but they concentrate on themselves and inhabit their own space mainly. So it's less blended than in the big city.
I see. And now I want to ask you about the filmmaking process, because this film observes people, their surroundings, their activities. When you conceptualize this film for the first time, did you already have in mind that this will be the observational documentary style, or is this something that you decide along the way when you're filming?
No, for me, I prefer observational documentaries. I like to make. Also, if I want to see a documentary, I'm not very happy when I see a lot of interviews on screen. I like to see scenes, and I like to see another world, a world that I'm not familiar with yet. So for me, my document is as well, I'd like to limit my interviews on screen as much as possible. And in this case, I have nobody on screen on the interview. I have a few small pieces with a voice of Anita, which is coming from an interview. But I decided to skip all the interviews on screen and just let the image speak for itself. The image and the sound. Sound is also very important. I think sound is half of the film. But no, so it was my plan to aim for an as much as observational documentary as possible. But sometimes you cannot get away with it, then think the story is not clear or motives are not clear enough, and then you need an interview. And also it can be, if you do it deliberately, an interview on screen can be very beautiful, because you can really see all the different nuances in a face and in the voice. So it can add to a film and to the to your experience watching a film. But I think when I see an interview on screen, I think, hey, why is there not a scene? Why don't I see what this person describes? So that was my goal. Yeah.
Did anybody ask to be interviewed when you when you filmed them?
Yes, well, sometimes when I announce that I'm going to film somebody, they expect to be interviewed. They think, okay, filming means I'm gonna tell my story on screen.
Yeah.
So they were surprised that I was like, hey, he's filming everybody and around me, but where am I? When can I do my story? So that was, some people I had to sort of educate in how I was going to work and what this film was how this film was going to be. Yeah.
And did Anita help also bridging, the connection between you and the communities?
Yes, she did. She really provided a lot of access and built bridges to different persons. But that's also part of the film, that she is also limited in her ability to build these bridges, because she is the person she is. And she works, and she has this she is in function. She is working as a representative of Jarden, the funeral company. So it's a different position for her than for me. For me, I don't have an interest I do not want something from these people in a commercial way or anything. No, I'm just interested in their story and their habits and their rituals, which is a whole different position. So in the movie, you see there is a path that Anita follows that I capture, but I also have my own path as a filmmaker that you also see on screen, which is a parallel path. Yeah. So you see the images of the different communities, and Anita is not part of that. She has not been to those funerals that I visited as a filmmaker. So the film shows how these different perspectives also cause different outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's I think what the main theme of my movie is, that everybody is sort of fixed in his or her own perspective, and it's very hard to build a true bridge between those perspectives. And I think in the end, maybe it's not even possible. Maybe we have to accept that it's not possible to really envision yourself in another perspective. But it is possible to exchange experiences and stories and opinions and visions. And by doing that, you create more understanding for each other's perspective. And I think that's the highest goal you can achieve, I think, in society.
And earlier you mentioned that it took you 6 years to complete the film. Did you eventually end the film at certain point, and then we see in the film 2 years later you revisited, or you still track the progress of the building of the garden. So I want to know, did you initially plan to spend 6 years filming this?
No,
Following until at least the building, the funeral center is held, or is it
no,
something
not
that
at
you
all.
discussed
No,
along
no,
the
no.
way?
My
Okay.
plan was to, do 1 year, 2 years. But well, it took a lot of. There was a lot of delays in building this funeral center, and also it took a lot of time for me to really get into these communities and gain their trust to allow me to be present at a funeral. I mean, it's crazy that that I succeeded, because it's so intimate. And who's waiting for a camera crew when a relative dies? I mean, I wouldn't. So it took a lot of time and a lot of effort for me to get to that point.
All right.
And I'm very grateful
Paul,
that I succeeded. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul, we already had a few. We already have few questions from our audience. So let me see the questions. Okay, let's see. The first one is from Ardi Shaifuddin. Hi, Paul. Congratulations on your documentary. I see that you follow a funeral procession of a Ghanaian family. Did you document more but left them on the cutting room floor? If yes, why did you choose that specific funeral process?
Yeah, the Ghanaian funeral. I did one. It's not that I was present at several of Ghanaian funerals. So it was the Ghanaian funeral from the start all the way to the end. So what you see in the film is are the best parts. I left a lot of material on the cutting floor. During those 6 years, I have like maybe 120, 130 hours of footage. And it had to be cut down to, well, I thought, to a very compact and concentrated film. So yeah, I have a lot of scenes left on also of this funeral, specific funeral of the Ghanaian family. But I wanted to get to the essence, and I wanted to pair those Ghanaian funeral to the other funerals in the film. So I specifically chose, together with my editor, to focus on parts of in this process of the funeral that would mirror the other funerals as well. So yeah, filmmaking is really killing your darlings. It's horrible, but it's a good sign if you have a lot of good material left on the cutting floor. It's a good sign, because then you know that what you use is really of high quality. I mean, if you have to really look for the best parts, because there is not so much, and you have to use everything, the quality of the film overall mostly is not very high. And in this case, I believe that part of the success of this film comes from that I cut out so much good stuff. I could make a second movie.
Oh, okay. So there is already a plan.
No. I'm done with the subject. No, I spent 6 years on the subject. No, it's time to move on and find different aspects of life to make a movie about. Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the second question. Okay, the first one is actually a comment from Fauzia. Hi, Paul. Such an emotional documentary you made. Honestly, I can't stop staring at ceiling for hours after the screening. And then the same person asks, death is personal issues for many and could be mentally draining to discuss it. How do you keep yourself sane and make boundaries during the shooting process? And also, how is the audience reception there? Thank you.
Yeah, I get this question a lot. How do you keep sane? Well, it's work. It's very special work, but keeping it professional helps a lot. But keeping it professional is in a different way than for most people, because I have to do that in my mind. But in the outside world, when I'm filming there, of course, I cannot be too professional, because then I would be very cold and very, distant, and it would interfere with the recordings. I wouldn't get the intimate recordings that I'm looking for. So while in my head, I have to keep this distance and this barrier to make it not personal, because I also myself, because it reminded me, of course, of my own funerals that I experienced in life. I also lost relatives. So it's keeping this boundary in my head, but at the same time, I have to be very personal and very close to the people that I film. So it's a mixed bag of being professional and at the same time not losing this personal bond that you created and took so much effort to create this. And also you have to relax afterwards. That's very important. But it can be quite constraining on your mental state to get really deep into this subject. So it's not easy making a film about this subject. But at the same time, what kept me going was that when things are not easy, when a subject or a process is not easy, it also means that not many people will undertake this effort, will not. So you have a sort of guarantee that it's going to be special what you're doing. The higher the mountain you have to climb, the less people are on this mountain. So it was also in a way that kept me going as well. Like, okay, I'm really onto something. So once I get there, I have something special, something that's not been captured on film that much, and I can create an experience that, which honors the medium film.
She asked about the audience reception. Audience reception.
It's quite positive, but also it's because of COVID. It's been I haven't that much direct feedback from the audience because there were not many cinema screenings. But the feedback I had was that everybody was amazed by how I could manage to get so close. And secondly, also, depending on who I was talking to, this difference in perspective. So the people from Yarden, they were really proud of this film. While people who are more sort of into multicultural society and these issues and this subject, they were really critical about Yarden. So it's depending on the perspective that you're watching this film, what kind of feedback you get from it. And that's, for me, that was really fascinating. There's not one truth. It's always depending on your own perspective, from which side you're looking at a subject.
Have you screened this film to Anita?
Yeah, she loved it.
Okay.
She loved it. Yeah. Even because I left in quite some sensitive remarks, and we had some issues afterwards with other people in the film that she interacts with who were quite upset. So we really had to talk to these people and say how things were recorded and what the meaning was and why something was in the film.
Okay, let's go to the next question from Fanny. Hi, Mr. Rigter. In this film, you show funeral culture from some countries. How do you choose that country? Are they because of the many communities there, like Indian?
Yeah. I just set out in this neighborhood. I approached a lot of different communities and a lot of different representatives of these communities, because I quickly discovered that if I just randomly approach people, I mean, it's never going to work. So I needed people who were sort of trusted by their community and who were sort of the concentration, the trust, the trustees of these communities. And if I would gain their trust, then they could introduce me to their community. So I approached like 5 or 6 to start with. There's a lot of Ghanaians are one of the biggest ones. A lot of Muslims, but Muslims from Suriname. Suriname has a special connection with the Netherlands. So a lot of Suriname people who are Christian or Muslim. So there's a scene in the film that that Anita visits a church, a mosque.
Mosque, yeah.
And also the Chinese community. A lot of different Hindustan community, but some communities were easier to relate to and to approach than other communities, which is not because of the people, but because of the culture itself or the religion itself. So it was the ones that are in the film are the ones that I succeeded in getting this far. And in the end, it's not like I wanted to make a sort of complete oversight of all the different religions. And no, for me, it was like, I want to show the Bijlmer area, this neighborhood as a whole, that perspective versus the perspective of the traditional Dutch society. And I don't need like 20 perspectives for that. No, I can come by 4 or 5. Yeah.
And right, we have 2 other questions. The first one is very philosophical, I would say. The person asked, what does death mean for Dutch?
What does death mean for Dutch? I think in Dutch society, death is like the end of life, which sounds very trivial, but in a lot of religions, death is just another phase or a transition to another phase. In the Dutch society, death is the end of life, and that's it. We can close the book. And depending on whether you're religious or not, then of course there's an afterlife. But religion in traditional Dutch society is losing a lot of momentum. There's the churches are more empty than 20 years ago. And there, of course, are a lot of new Dutch people who bring in their own religion and their own beliefs. So death is quite depressing for Dutch people. Yeah.
I see. And last question from our audience. This is in Indonesian. Let me translate it to you. After watching this film, I would like to ask, in your opinion, what is the current state of the interracial relations between various ethnics and whites in your country? Thank you.
Okay, this is an important question, and I think this is what my film is about. Yeah. So my film is about death, but behind this subject of death, it is about exactly this issue. And I think my film shows that it's very hard to bring perspectives together.
Yeah.
And it's also the question whether everything should be together and mixed. Maybe it's okay if everyone does their own thing in their own place. Maybe that's okay, as long as we respect each other. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But in general, in the Netherlands, and I think worldwide, it's not a very positive picture. The trend is not very positive, in my opinion. Everybody is sort of stuck in their own bubble, their own perspective, and sort of the boundaries are getting higher and more firm instead of that it sort of melts and everyone, that it's more fluid, it's becoming more harsh and more strong. And I believe it is because of the, it's a whole different subject, but I believe it is for a big part because of the influence and the use of social media. I call it asocial media because I think what comes from it is a lot of everybody gets stuck in their own information bubble and uses only the opinions and information that confirms them in their own vision and beliefs. While I think society means we have to deal with other perspectives and other beliefs, and it's not to say that you have to adapt to that, but you have to know about it, because I think once you know more of each other, it leads to more understanding. And that's key to building and keeping a society sane and future-proof. And the trend now, I'm a bit worried about it, because there's people are only using their own perspectives and information that confirms them in their own belief. And I think you should get confronted with information that is opposite to that belief, because then you start thinking.
Yeah, and this is why your film also carries a very important informational point that diversity exists, and we have to make the best out of it. So thank you for making this film, Paul. Unfortunately, we are running out of time because we have to move on to the next film talk. But if it is not pandemic, we would love to have you in person talking about this and sharing experience with our audience. Yeah. Before we end, let's take a picture together, and our technical host will guide us on how to do that.
Please send it to me afterwards.
Yes, we will. So, Panji, can you guide us?
Hello, everyone. I'm the host for today, and I'll take a picture in 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Paul, for your time.
Thank you very much. Good luck with the festival, and hope to see you once in reality.
Of course. Good luck for your next projects, and have a good day ahead.
Thank you.
So that was our film talk with Paul Rigter. He is the director of Dealing with Death. You can still see the film in Festival Scope. The tickets are available. And before we close the session, I would like to announce we have one participants who will get special merchandise from ours, Fauzia Saraswati. Our team will contact you after this. Okay, so right after this, we have another film talk session with the director of I Never Cry from Poland, and my colleague Putri will host it. Thank you. Keep watching the films in Europe on screen. I'm Noval signing off. Goodbye.